Hi, this is Paul. Just putting together the two names of Jordan B. Peterson and Ibram X. Kendi would probably spark thoughts of conflict in your mind. Just recently, Jordan Peterson on his daughter Michaela's podcast, I thought an interesting and productive conversation with Coleman Hughes. But of course, Coleman Hughes is writing a book to demonstrate that color blindness should not in fact pass away. And Ibram X. Kendi's crusade about third wave anti-racism is really big stuff. And that led me to the question, why would we want to watch a good faith conversation between them? Now, even just saying that line, I think for many of us, prompts us in a certain direction. What jumps to mind? Well, I think a lot of people right from the start would say there can be no such thing. And there would be people on both sides of the conversation. Both sides would basically say the same thing about the other. He's gone too far. He's incapable of a good conversation. He's incapable of seeing the other side. There'd be no point to the two talking with each other. Now, at the beginning of the vision of the IDW, Ryan Bennett had a phrase, the IDW protocol, and central to this phrase, which I think David Fuller has tried to maintain, is the idea that people are worth talking to, and to always maintain the idea that the other side is at least potentially capable of having what we might call a good faith conversation. Why would we want to watch it, even if we thought it could never happen? Well, I'm sure many of us would want to see the other guy lose, probably even more than we would want to see our guy win. And I think part of this is the assumption that our ideas are sort of located up in the heavenlies. What do I mean about that? You could see it in a Platonic frame that, well, the ideas are above, and that's where truth comes from. Our ideas, which is that we are right and they are wrong, we want to see vindication up in the sky for our side against the other. We want to see, well, whatever we imagine to be the right side of history. That's a tremendously eschatological phrase. We imagine that, well, this final showdown would prove it. But inevitably, with the two sides talking, as is most often the case, both parties leave convinced, disappointed, not quite sure that the whole idea was a good one. Now, not too long ago, there were a number of these things that Jordan Peterson was involved with. And in fact, one of the members of my local meetup said, what Peterson needs to do is to keep getting into fights. And I remember him saying that, and that really sort of lodged in my mind, because what does he mean by that? I think part of what he meant by that was that each time Peterson would be in a fight, his popularity would seem to grow. In fact, the Jordan Peterson-Kathy Newman conversation for many people really put Peterson on the map. But when we watch the Monk debate with Peterson, and especially the sparks between Michael Eric Dyson and Peterson, and the attempt at a conversation between Jordan Peterson and Slavoj Žižek, which very much didn't go as Peterson would imagine, we sort of got the idea that, well, maybe these kinds of conversations are pointless. Maybe a good faith conversation is something that can't be had. Just today, I saw a tweet by Andrew Sullivan, which came out yesterday. Some people pointed it my way. Andrew Sullivan makes the comment upon another tweet. The other tweet says, where meritocrats, however merit is defined, believe that their gifts make them better humans as opposed to humans with special responsibilities, arrogance, greed, will combine to produce ghastly mess. And Andrew responds to that by saying, yes, maybe Christianity was more important to a functioning meritocracy than we once thought. What might Andrew Sullivan have believed in that? That Christianity somehow places us in a space where truth can be known from above, or at least truth can be vindicated in the future. That history has an arc, and it's headed towards good things. Now, in the middle of it, we might, of course, think that our side is right and their side is wrong, but it sort of imagines and asserts a platform or a playing field where truth can be discovered, truth can be lived into, and something can be seen. And part of the way to get there is for people to talk to one another, to listen to one another, to have a degree of openness. And I think in many ways that openness is dependent upon the idea that the future is not simply up to us alone. That somehow, some way, there is a process by which, in the end, the good will win, the truth will win out, and, well, thy kingdom will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, another person that I enjoy bringing into this conversation is another philosophy professor by the name of Daniel Bonavac, who has a good number of his lectures on YouTube. He doesn't have the visibility of Jordan Peterson. One of the classes that he recorded from a number of years ago, the first lecture is Normativity, Ideas from the 20th Century. And he notes that there are many two-track theories. And implicit in these theories is that, well, there are underlying things which motivates us. We are so completely hemmed in by our racism that we can't help but be racist all the time. We are so completely hemmed in by the patriarchy and other subtle forces that are moving beneath the culture that we cannot possibly escape them. And if in fact that is true, then writing books about how to be an anti-racist sort of undermines the presupposition that you imagine to be there, because racists will be racists, and that abiding, determining undercurrent will always cut the legs out from the space in which we are conscious above in our minds. And so racists will be racists, and sexists will be sexists, and bigots will be bigots, and there's no talking them out of that. Now, once you produce a book that says they can be talked out of it, you presuppose that maybe the underlying power that you are asserting doesn't quite have the grasp on it that you imagine. And this opens that space for good faith, that the two of us can talk, that we can share ideas, that no matter how much we imagine the other side is beyond redemptive grasp, that change can happen. It implies a degree of human freedom. The worldview assumes, by this hope, that talking is better than fighting, that people can change and be changed, that even if one conversation doesn't result in a gotcha, or even if it does, we keep playing the game and we keep having more conversations. And even though we dig in and we get defensive and we're watched and sort of hemmed in by our side that wants to keep us, well, battling for our group, that there is in each of us a degree of honesty and openness and hope, and something new and something good can happen. We want to believe that truth can be discovered and entered into and lived out, and that the future is open in a good way, more than just the cold, dark death of the universe, with each of us going to our graves locked in by the theory underneath our present consciousness, keeping us hostage to the evils of the past and the narratives that bind. Why would we want to watch a good faith conversation between Jordan Peterson and Ibram X. Kendi? Because on whatever side you are, you want to believe that there is hope, that people can change, that the future can be good, that we somehow can be redeemed and participate in a better world.